Tension has continued to rise since the resolution of the additional emirates created during the Ganduje administration and the subsequent reinstatement of Muhammadu Sunusi II as the Emir of Kano. Supporters of the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, performed a special prayer outside the Nasarawa residence of the Emir. Protests erupted after the prayers, as the protesters carried placards with inscriptions calling for the removal of Muhammadu Sunusi II as the Emir. They are demanding the reinstatement of Aminu Ado Bayero as the Emir.
As you can see, Kano State people had gathered out to show their, let me call it, to show their unhappiness over what state government have done. Generally, Kano State people need the Pipe Emirate to be stands as Emirate.
I want justice to be happening in Kano State, in the Emirate Council, because God knows that our Emir, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, it doesn't make any problem for him. You cannot create as a problem for him. The Kano State governor cannot say that there's one problem that created since Aminu was arriving in Kano Emirate Council. We are having a peaceful staying in Kano since he arrived.
Gaya and Bichi local government areas experienced same incidents, with the protests taking a violent turn in Bichi. Meanwhile, the national chairman of the Arewa Social Contract Initiative, Sani Dharma, sued for peace and called on Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero to leave the state for peace to reign.
Our advice is strongly on the dethroned Emir, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, to quickly vacate Kano State. Even if he's going to claim his rights, he should leave Kano, and then whatever may come later, he should take it in good faith.
Earlier, the State Police Commissioner had warned against disruption of peace in the state.
As whoever, under whatever guise, is found to be planning to disrupt the peace being enjoyed in the state, or feel that he or she can jeopardize the existing security setting in the state, will be arrested and be made to face the full wrath of the law. Therefore, as police command is leading other security agencies to sustain the peace and peaceful coexistence for overriding interests, miscreants should stay clear of violence in all its ramifications.
In light of the escalating tensions and widespread protests, it is expected that community leaders and security agents will work towards the restoration of calm and peace in Kano. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Well, this is the current situation as reported by our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu. It does appear that tensions are still quite high since the return of the reinstatement of Emir Sunusi II. Oh, this morning to discuss the historical perspective and what precisely will be the way out of this tension. We have with us Professor Tijjani Nania, who is of the Department of History, Bayero University in Kano. Prof, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Happy to be with you.
Well, quite a situation currently being experienced in Kano. Do you want to give us your own personal reading of what is currently happening around you in Kano State?
Okay. My own personal observation is that at the beginning of the entire palaver, you see, the situation was created in 2019 when the former government of Alhaji Abdullahi Umar Ganduje went ahead to dethrone Muhammad Sunusi and enact a law establishing, enthroning Aminu Ado Bayero and establishing 4 other emirates, including Kano. Right from that period, many of us, including my very humble self, cautioned the government that it is establishing a wrong precedent. If the governor, by virtue of his holding office as governor, could use his power unilaterally to do what he did with regard to the Sarauta institution in Kano, then what will happen if another government comes entirely and is not in agreement with what he did? That's what I said in 2019, and this is what is happening now. Another government has come, and it has made it part of its campaign promise that once voted into office is to do something to restore the dignity of the Sarauta institution in Kano. And this is what he has done, and now it is creating problem. And it means this thing has not been done, or it is followed in a subtler way. Sin could have not degenerated this way.
Well, we understand that, the Kano Emirate has over 1,000 years of history behind it. You are a professor of history. Can you speak to any situation in history that has been close to what it is that we're currently witnessing, and whether there was a way out of it?
Yes. You see, it's true, Kano is over 1,000 years. The Sarauta institution is over 1,000 years. And over the period, there were instances when there were this enthronement of Sarki. For example, in the 16th century, around 1570, when Sarki was dethroned, he was reinstated forcefully. And at the second decade, the beginning of the second decade of the 17th century, to be precise, between 1619 to 1621, similar thing happened, and there was a restoration. And the biggest one was in the 19th century. It's 1893, when there was a rebellion, a revolt against the failure to follow due process in the appointment of Sarkin Kano. And that rebellion resulted in a revolt, which is popularly known as Basasa. There was a civil war. And the civil war was spearheaded by the rebellion leader that was Galadima Yusuf, the great grandfather of present governor of Kano. And he was also the senior person in the house of Sarki Abdullahi Maje Kalofi. And the descendants of Abdullahi Maje Kalofi are still the ruling dynasty in Kano. So both the governor, Abdullahi Maje Kabir Yusuf, and all these Amina Ado Bayero belong to the same family. So that was very devastating. It took 11 months in that civil war. And the revolt, the rebellion, the people that led the revolt became successful. And they installed a new government under Sarki Alu. To this day, is the descendants of that house of Majikari, Abdullah Majikari, that is still ruling Kano. So it's something misunderstanding between families, between the people of the same dynasty, the same blood. And if you can remember, at the coming of the Europeans, that was not civil war, it was the right of conquest that made the Europeans look at to dethrone the incumbent Alu and install his senior brother Abbas as the Emir of Kano. Emir Abbas is the great grandfather of Aminu Ado Bayero and even Muhammad Sunusi. So, and in 1963, there was misunderstanding between the Northern Regional Government and the Emirate of Kano that led to the dethronement of Sarki Muhammad Sunusi I, the grandfather of the incumbent Emir of Kano, installed by Abba Kabir Yusuf, the governor of Kano State.
Well, quite a very rich history there, and it's very significant to note that this is not anything new, but it's very different when there is an, would I say, in-house tussle. It's very different from that time. Is very different from now, where you now have government interference And this is not about, well, some people have put it down to two families and, infighting between two families, and also government interference helping out in this particular instance. But we certainly cannot afford a rebellion or a civil war or civil unrest in Kano. So from your own perspective, because also what we're also dealing with is the fact that the Emirates was balkanized. 5 different Emirates created. Kano was one of them. Now there are attempts to bring all of them back into one Emirate and install one emir or reinstate one emir over the particular Emirate. What are the potential fallouts you see from this? Because those other emirs who were given stools were also first-class emirs, and overnight they have been told, they have to vacate their seats. Their Emirates no longer exist, and everything now has to fall back under Kano. This is certainly going to come at a price. What price do you think the state government is going to pay to be able to bring back the Emirate into what it originally was?
I think there is no price the government has to pay. This is not the first time that something similar to this happened. During the administration during the Second Republic of Governor Muhammad Abubakarini, he made an attempt to create Emirates, the Emirate of Rano, the Emirate of Gaya, the Emirate of Duse, and the Emirate of Karai. Then Duse was under Kano, not in Jigawa. And when there was a change of government, Sabo Bakinzo came into office in 1983. He rescinded that policy. He rescinded that decision and restored back Kano to its former position as one single emirate in Kano. That is number one. So it's not the first time. Secondly, for people that are not conversant with the history of Kano or with the history of the emirate system, they should remember or they should understand that emirate is not created just like that. It has a history. The history of emirateship in northern Nigeria and the defunct Sokoto Caliphate for that matter, you see, started with the success of the jihad. Hitherto, all house kingdoms, Katsina, Zazzau, Gobir, Kano, Daura, were all independent of each other. They have kings. They had kings. But when the jihad was conducted, then there was the coming together of all the Hausa states to form part of the great Sokoto Caliphate, which means kings were now reduced in their power and they became emirs, hence emirates. They became provinces. That's why they are called emirates. And to signify that they were emirates, the jihad leaders, the triumvirate, that is Usman Dampodio, Abdullahi Ngondo, and Mohammed Bello, issued each of those provinces with a flag, signifying that they are recognized to be emirates, political units of the vast Sokoto Caliphate. That was the reason for the establishment of Kano Emirate. The jihad was conducted in Kano by the leading Fulani and Hausa scholars. And once they became successful, Usman Dampodio gave a flag to the jihad leaders in Kano that now Kano is an emirate. Kano then included all those places, all those towns that were part of Kano province and now part of Kano state. Though some areas were removed to Jigawa. So you could see whoever said that he can create an emirate at a go, what is the historical basis? Karai was created as an emirate by Ganduje, who gave Karai that flag of Usman Dampodio. Usman Dampodio and his assistants, that is Abdullahi and Bello, didn't give that. Gaya was not given any flag. Rano was not given any flag. So to say they were emirates, from whose authority? Who gave that authority of an emirateship? A governor doesn't have that power. because this is something in tradition and history, and you cannot rewrite history. Even when there was a tussle during the jihad. Kazaure was considered to be part of Kano, and Kazaure said no, it conducted its own jihad, so it would not be part of Kano. There was a real crisis, and the delegates of Kano and Kazaure had to move to Sokoto, and they were resolved, and the Emirate of Kazaure was created, and a flag was given to them. Now, was there any problem in 2019 that the people of Kano went to Sokoto and claimed to get a flag from the Sultan? There was none. So to attempt to create a history where there is none, and there is no basis for creating one, something must have been wrong. And that's why we caution the government, don't get into this. It will create problem.
Well, there are those who also say that what is at stake here, or what suffers the brunt of this, is the traditional stool itself. The fact that we now have political influence, removing emirs, putting emirs, creating emirates, restoring emirates, that at the end of the day, what takes the brunt of this is the traditional stool. Do you share this opinion as well?
Yeah, I do share. That's why I said that we caution the former government that let us not go into this problem. It will create a problem which will affect the aura, the dignity, the flamboyance, and the respect which Kano tradition institution enjoys. And now this is happening. So it's the Kanawa, that is the people of Kano, that is the receiving end. Their symbol of authority, traditional authority, their symbol of cultural integrity is now being threatened. And once it is threatened, once it goes hey, nobody knows what will happen.
How would you advise the state government to move forward? Because now we have the emir who's been reinstated, and we also have the emir who was removed, who is now residing, from what we understand, in is it a palace somewhere in Nasarawa, still in Kano State? How would you, because right now that's what exactly is causing tension. There are those who say there cannot be two emirs in one emirate. What needs to be done to be able to resolve this seeming standoff?
You see, you are right. There will never be two presidents in a country. There will never be two governments in a state. There will never be two local governments in a local government area. And there will never be two emirs in a state. In an emirate, there will only be one. You see, when the former government removed Sunusi, he acquiesced and accepted to be removed. And he moved down to Lagos to establish his family. He did not give up. He was only waiting for a time for him to make his case that he was removed unjustly. It was a government, it's the prerogative of the governor to appoint an emir, and government had done it. Nobody, not even the president of the country, will do otherwise, because appointment of emirs is within the residual power of governors. But this situation is created from outside. The governor with the prerogative power has appointed a new emir. For God's sake, how would somebody now come to say that he is, and then who appoints him? He was appointed by Ganduji, and now Abba has removed him. So the appointment of Ganduji was the more honest one, and this one, is Abba Kabir not a governor? Hasn't he that power? And that power was given to him by the House of Assembly. The House of Assembly recalled that law, looked into it, and repealed it, and sent it to governor for assent. He did. And now the governor called the electoral college, the electoral committee of the emirate to appoint a new emir, and he was appointed. And now it is being contested. Then who will contest that? It was the power of the governor. It was done within the constitutional provision of the state government. And I could not see how somebody from outside could come and say, no, this is not. I can't know. The question is, on what basis was Ado Bayero allowed to return to Kano? On what basis? What is the constitutional or the legal premise of doing that?
On the basis of a court order, we understand.
The court order came in after the governor has assented to the bill and appointed a new emir. So what will happen? And secondly, court is supposed to bring about peace and peaceful coexistence. Court order of the Federal High Court in Kano was using the issue of human rights. I don't know why in defending the right of an individual, you can jeopardize the right of public peace of an entire state. I can't understand this. Sometimes I'm very sorry, our judicial institution is an accomplice to the problem of instability and the problem of corruption and the problem of so many things bad that is happening. You'll see somebody committing a crime, and just because he's in court and he collapses, and then the whole issue will be suspended. And the startled public will ask, what is happening? What is happening? These people, this man we have known he has committed something, but now from using technicalities, he's being allowed to go scot-free unless we make an amend in our judicial institution. I think will continue to be in a problem.
Ayo has questions for you.
Thank you, Marco. Prof, the governor has already made his position known and decided exactly what he is going to do, particularly with the order that came from that judge. But, you know, having said everything and heard all that you have said, the question that comes to my mind straight away, Prof, is the quantum of communication or awareness that the larger population of the protesters have about this particular matter? Or do you think that some people are just using them?
Believe you me, if you were to be in Kano, you will know that the whole thing that was carried out and shown in your TV, I cannot say that your journalists were used, but it was state managed, and they have to. But go to Kano now. I'm from the city, right in that city. I came without seeing any problem. People are going up about their businesses, but this is not to say that some people were just hired and brought to go to some prominent places and just stage protests in support or against anything. But when the governor was a product of a political campaign and an election. And he promised the people that once you voted me into office, I'm going to restore Sunusi's position. And people aware of this, they voted him. Then you think the majority will come and say, no, we don't agree? I am afraid no.
Okay. So, Prof, just one more, because we're running out of time. What do you make of the comments coming from the Northern elders calling on the federal government, or perhaps maybe even the president directly, to wade into the conversation and ensure that there is peace in Kano State and that Kano State does not boil? Do you see a role for the federal government in this matter? Has it gotten to that level?
No, it's not within its own jurisdiction. The president should concern himself with the responsibility assigned to him by the Constitution. There is no crisis in Kano. There is no violence in Kano. And if there were one, then it was being masterminded by some interested groups, which you cannot prevent them from doing that, in order to create a situation where, as you people from far away, Lagos or Abuja, you may assume that something is going bad or something is happening that is disrupting the peace in Kano. No, there is nothing like that. I think, you see, just recently in Takum, there was a creation of, well, a new Sarauta system in order to cooperate other ethnic groups. In spite of the agitation, of the disagreement, the president was not invited to intervene, even though some of the people affected have gone to court. And I don't think in southwest Nigeria or southeast or south or north central, any traditional issue will allow its own cultural and traditional system to be determined by the presidency. No, I don't. This is an abuse to our culture and abuse to our tradition, because the president, no matter who he is not conversant with the history, the tradition, and the culture of the people. And once there is attempt to do that, then there will be chaos, not only in Kano, but anywhere a similar thing happened.
Prof, just one last one now. I mean, I've asked this question a number of times with some other guests. The traditional stool, the monarchy in Nigeria, is placed under the democracy, but that colonial masters still have their own monarchy over their own democratic governance. So how do you see us insulating the monarchy, our traditional institutions across the country, from such influences as what is happening in Kano right now?
You see, you are right. Still, Britain is a constitutional government, but it's a monarchical constitutional government. The problem with us here is, at any given point, let me give you an example in Kano. You see, Kano used to know by tradition only the Emir of Kano. But then in 1967, state was created and a governor was appointed. Then this brings something, a rival, so to say, by people as saying a rival to the Emir. And that started the problem. If not for the diplomacy of Sarki Ado Bayero, who was even young at that time, and the maturity of the police commissioner Audu Bako, there would have been chaos in Kano. But then the two realized that they needed to cooperate with one another. And that's why even their differences was not heard of. When it came to the Second Republic, Rimi, climbing on the popularity of winning election, thought that he could play with the traditional institution. And that created a lot of problems, which no sooner was he removed, or no sooner did he fail to come to power, then status quo ante was returned. You see, there was also an attempt, even during Abacha, there was an insinuation that he was even attempting to order the removal of Emir of Kano, but he was cautioned against it. She was told that the moment anything like that happened, something will happen. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is traditional institutions should be respected by our political officers.
Well, Prof, just wondering.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but as we wrap up now, I would like to know this arrest, which the governor has also put out there. Is this something you think can be effected, given where the police currently stand?
It's not going to be effective because I'm sorry to say I even take to be partisan. Because the police are here to defend the state, not an individual. And the police is claiming that it is respecting the order. So who is more important? Is the state more important or the order? Court order for what? And when was it issued? I told you this issue is state managed from above. And if we are not careful, the problem, breaking down of chaos in Kano, will lead to a serious problem. And I'm very sorry, I'm not partisan and I don't want to belong to anywhere. And I think it's something that we should tread the path with caution. Otherwise, because I cannot understand why a police commissioner should come out and say he is only here to defend what the court order, not the chief executive of the state. What impression is he giving to people?
It's a big question to ponder, and we will continue to keep our eyes on developments in Kano as this situation persists. But we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, Professor Tijjani Nania of the Department of History, Bayero University in Kano. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
You're always welcome.
And that's what we have to wrap up the program this beautiful Children's Day, the 27th of May, 2024. You can always send your thoughts and your thinking to the handles. I hope that they pop up soon, or send us an email, however it is you feel, on any of the issues we've raised, Children's Day or the situation in Kano, or even what you saw on Business News. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Happy Children's Day to you and to the child in you.